Yeah. All right, hello, can you hear me? No. Can you hear me now? All right. Keep talking to someone. Can you hear me in the back? Okay. Thank you. We're ready to start here. We're also on Zoom this morning, so it's a dual broadcast, so to speak. Good morning. It's so nice to see everybody. Thank you for being here. I'd like to open our session this morning with a word of prayer from Pastor Bree. Pastor Bree.
Let us pray. Gracious God, as your word reminds us this morning, there are a variety of gifts of the same Spirit, and there are a variety of services of the same Spirit. This morning, as we have in our hearts and minds your call in our lives, as we gather to talk about the ways in which you are calling us to mission and ministry, and the ways in which you might be calling us into partnership with Pastor Eric in that mission and ministry. We ask that you bless this time, this conversation together with the presence of your Spirit. Draw forth our curiosity, help us to be thoughtful and reflective in the questions we ask and the responses and ponderings we share. Gracious God, in the midst of all of this, instill within us the deep knowing that all our efforts, all our activities, all our ministry, all our life together here at Mount View is for the purpose of loving and serving you, and loving and serving one another and our neighbors. We pray all of this through Christ our Lord.
Well, once again, good morning. This morning is another opportunity for you to get to know Pastor Eric Bostrom, who's right here to my right. Pastor Eric is our candidate of choice and has indicated his willingness to consider a divine call as lead pastor to Mountain View Lutheran Church. Many of you were present to greet Pastor Eric and his family yesterday morning at our open house for the Boston's, which was in the gallery space where many of you just came from. Pastor Eric, I want to tell you that your family's delightful and filled with energy and optimism. It was a blessing meeting you for the first time yesterday morning. Thank you. For those of you who did not meet Pastor Eric in one of our ministry group meetings this past week, or at yesterday's open house, this will be your first experience, perhaps. For those who have met him, you'll learn even more about him today. I've had second thoughts about how I read this morning's gathering. I call it questions and answers with Pastor Eric Bostrom. This is not an interview. It's not an interview with Pastor Eric.
It's a game of stump the pastor.
I'm not going to get another line here, but it's not an interview. The call committee has already done that. This is not a theological or social issues debate. This is the title I wish I had given this morning's gathering. A conversation with Pastor Eric Bostrom, which is exactly what I'm going to hand it now. The purpose of this morning's session is to get to know Pastor Eric through a series of conversational moments. Now, when you ask Pastor Eric a question, please stand as you are able and speak loudly so we can all hear you. And then Pastor Eric will slowly repeat the question for the benefit of people on Zoom. Because on Zoom, they can't hear your question from out there. So he'll repeat that question. And he will do so slowly, not because he's necessarily having to do so, but because the people on Zoom, the bandwidth has to catch up to the voice in the video. So he will do it slowly, and so will I. So I'd like to begin our session this morning, Pastor Eric, by you telling us something about yourself, your family, and your ministry. Pastor Eric.
Well, first of all, I'm tall, so I'm going to do some adjustment. Thank you so much, Bob. You've been a wonderful council president, and thank you, just for, great communication and guidance through this whole process. I'm Eric, and I'm married to Rhonda, who's also a pastor, and by the mysterious work of the Holy Spirit and the grace of God, God has found a place for a clergy couple where we can both find wonderful fits, and we don't have to live in different states, which is always a bonus. My wife and I will celebrate 19 years of ordained ministry this summer, July 13th. We were ordained in 2003. And we will also celebrate 25 years of marriage in May of this year. We are currently at a congregation called Sheridan Lutheran Church in Lincoln, Nebraska. We are 2 of 4 pastors in that church, and it has 4,000 members. And believe it or not, Sheridan is the 2nd largest ELCA congregation in Lincoln. Their Southwood Lutheran is even larger than Sheridan, which we get a little competitive about. My son Soren was, yes. My son Soren is here. He's 15 years old. He's a sophomore. So he has 2 more years of high school. My daughter Annika is 17. She's a senior in high school. We'll be graduating in May, and we'll be heading off to college. This has also been, in addition to the meet and greets, she's visited UW, not UWs. It's singular. I was corrected for that. On Tuesday morning, and we walked around in the rain for 90 minutes, and everyone was so apologetic. Oh, we're so sorry for the rain. And we were like, it's January and it's not 10 degrees. What is there to complain about? But she had a good experience. She wants to be a nurse, and but I mean, it's a very large university, and she heard about 400, 500, lecture classes and everything. And then Wednesday morning, we had a tour at PLU. I knew that was going to happen. That's why I wanted to reference PLU. And if Annika goes to PLU, and if I get that PLU dad sweatshirt, can I be in your cool club? And yeah, she had a very good experience at PLU. I also broke away for about a half an hour because the Senate office is right next to the campus, and I had a wonderful conversation with Pastor Rebecca and Bishop Jakes, and they're delightful people. And so I'm really, I mean, not only, I'm excited about all of you, Mountain View. I'm excited about this synod and the opportunity, to, get to know colleagues here and hopefully some really great partnerships with other congregations and with wonderful things happening in the synod. I've been at Sheridan for 9.5 years as the associate pastor for pastoral care and adult faith formation. My wife, Rhonda, has been at Sheridan for 14.5 years. And if you know anything about, the average tenure of an associate pastor in the ELCA, I think it's 4 or 5 years. So, I mean, we've been pretty long tenured in our current place. And, we've simply, been wrestling and, kind of praying in our hearts, feeling, and knowing that our next call is, going to be, lead pastor position. But we didn't exactly know what the timing of that all was. Yeah, I mean, just discerning the Spirit and last summer, just kind of feeling the Holy Spirit's tap on the shoulder. I think now is the right time. And so we filled out our paperwork, and it just kind of goes out to the whole church, knowing that we're a clergy couple, and it's going to be hard to find that, not just one bullseye, but 2 bullseyes that have to kind of hit at the same time. And it was Pastor Rebecca that spotted my paperwork and read through it, and knowing Mountain View, is in need of a pastor, and she thought, I think there might be a match there. And so she asked if I wanted to see your paperwork, and I said, yeah, I'd love to see it. And I read through it and was really impressed with your live document, just really impressed, with the community center that you have. It's a great resource. The deacon ministry, the strong music programs, the strong just education focuses and emphases that you have. And so Pastor Rebecca, knowing that we were a clergy couple, was communicating with her counterpart in Northwest Washington Synod, knowing that, we're going to have to find a match for Rhonda as well. And that is how Holy Trinity came about. So I've had 4 calls. Sheridan is my 4th call. Before that, I did a 2-year kind of a specialized interim call at Faith Lutheran in Seward, Nebraska. And before that, Seward, Nebraska is just right outside of Lincoln. Before that, I was 3 years the campus pastor at the Lutheran Center on the campus of the University of Nebraska at Lincoln. And I really love campus ministry. College students, are just such a gift, to our whole church, because they bring challenging but very, very honest questions. And they don't, why should we go to worship? Why should we pray? Why should we read the Bible? If you say because that's what we do, that's going to be highly unsatisfactory to a college student. They really want to know a meaningful reason why, and I love that. Because it helped me to not take anything for granted. And then before that, our first call, my wife and I did serve in our first call together. It was a 3-point congregation that we both served north of Lincoln, 3 small communities. We went to Trinity Lutheran Seminary in Columbus, Ohio. All right, go Trinity. Played on the Trinity's right across the street from Capital University, which is, another one of our ELCA colleges, and they had an intramural flag football team. And so the seminarians played against the 19 and 20-year-olds. And we were known as the Trinity Terrors. And, you know, seminarians come in all, you know, stations of life. So there were some, you know, young 20-somethings on the team, but there were also, you know, 40 and 50-year-old second career seminarians that were on the team too. And needless to say, we didn't win a lot of games in that intramural football league, but we had a lot of fun. For 2 years, Ron and I, we were together on our internship in Littleton, Colorado, Abiding Hope Lutheran Church. And that was a great place, most especially because our supervisor was Pastor Rick Barger, who actually later served as president of Trinity Lutheran Seminary for a while. But he was an excellent supervisor. He really challenged us. He's this guy from South Carolina, loves NC State Wolfpack, and has a Southern accent, and but just a super faithful, fun individual. And then before that, Ron and I went to Midland Lutheran College in Fremont, Nebraska, and that's where we met. And we got married a week after we graduated in 1997. And so we got married and packed up a U-Haul and drove out to Columbus, Ohio to start our life and our ministry together. So that's just a little, my father was a Lutheran pastor. So I was a PK. A big part of my biography and my spiritual journey was when I was 12 years old. Our family was living in Council Bluffs, Iowa. My dad was serving at St. John Lutheran Church. My dad died very unexpectedly from pneumonia. And so my mom, at that point, became a single parent of 4 children. I was 12, my brothers were 10 and 8, and my sister was 5. So those were 2 very difficult years. My mom met someone from Omaha and got married 2 years later in 1990. And so we moved to Omaha. And that kind of started the Nebraska chapter of my life. So I didn't grow up in Nebraska, but kind of ended up there and had a sense of Nebraska being my home ever since 1990. So I think I'm going to stop there, just kind of with my short biography. Is it time for Stump the Pastor? Okay, I'm screwing up your sensitivity.
No. I thought we rehearsed this. It's time for your questions.
Yeah.
Any of your questions, please stand and address Pastor Eric if you can, as loudly as you can so we can all hear. And then he'll repeat your question for the Zoom participants.
Very slowly.
Yes. Yes, thank you.
Having come from a very large church and having had the experience with our mom, do you see any need for that portion of the population?
Okay, so repeat the question. Having come from a large congregation and experiencing a single parent, do I feel a need to serve single parents in this community? Yes. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, each family, each individual is going to have, everyone kind of has a part of life, which is a heavy burden. And it's my hope that what it means to be a part of this community is that none of us feel like you have to carry that burden alone, but that many hands make the work light. And so there's a sense that if someone, is a single parent, maybe someone's going through a health difficulty, maybe someone lost a family member and is kind of feeling that heaviness of grief. I hope that there's a sense that because of being a part of this faith community, that you know, you're receiving a sense of care, and you're kind of, I mean, there's an awareness, you know, that you're going through that difficult time, and yeah, so okay, outreach. You mean for single parents in our community? So maybe a focused outreach to single parents in our community. Yeah, I mean, how I would like to see that come off the ground is for you and others that, I mean, really have a heart for those families. You know, let's come together and let's make a plan, and let's work together on that as a team, and we'll carry it out, and we'll see where the Holy Spirit leads those efforts. Yeah.
Dale Olson, good to see you again.
Dale, yes,
So,
from Dodgeball. Oh. Well, yeah, I mean, it's a very deceptive delivery, because it's interesting that you say left hand, because I was throwing with my right hand. But I feel good that I was able to be so deceptive with my delivery that you thought I was actually throwing it with my left hand. So I don't know, maybe I have a shot at the MLB. You know, I love baseball. I would call it my favorite sport. And do you have a church softball team? Okay. But I played, you know, baseball a little bit growing up. But I really enjoyed, you know, whatever congregation I was a part of. If they had a church softball team, you know, I would like to play that. But no, I was never a pitcher. I mean, I was the kid that they stuck out in right field. I don't know, I was 13 or something. I had braces, sitting out there in left field. The ball gets hit to me, and I'm just kind of stammering, but I don't position my glove properly, and the ball pops me right there on my mouth. You know, it cut the inside of my mouth with my braces, and yeah. But dodgeball was fun on Monday night. The reason why I was throwing underhand is because I was trying to throw the ball low to hit people's legs, because I didn't want to be that pastor that hit someone in the head. Yeah, yeah. Very impressed with the competitive level, for sure, on Friday night. Yeah, that was fun. Done.
Since we're on activities and entertainment and fun, what sort of things do you and your family look forward to relocating here that you couldn't do in Nebraska?
Ski. I mean, outdoor. Yeah, I mean, outdoor things. So hiking. I mean, our family loves to go to Colorado, but that's a 9-hour drive. And so not having to drive 9 hours, you know, to do a lot of fun things is great. You know, just I'm a runner, so I want to just keep running to you know, take good care of myself. Running is almost more for my emotional health and my mental health, even more so than my physical body. It just helps me, you know, kind of burn the negative energy so that for the rest of the day I'm more positive. I would like to run in some half marathons or something, whatever races around here. I mean, if anyone's a runner, I'd love to, get together and run. Maybe we can do a race together or something. But just, skiing, hiking, exploring. I mean, just the natural wonders of this corner of the world. Never lived in a city with an MLB team before, so yeah, I want to go to a Mariners game. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I talked about this at the music get together. I mean, I really enjoy music, being a part of music. Music is that thing that provides a lot of joy for me, and then joy provides longevity in ministry. So every church I've ever been a part of, I've always been a part of the music program, just because that brings me so much joy. And so yeah, I'm really looking forward to being a part of music here at Mountain View. And my son is a musician as well. He plays the cello. My wife, is a wonderful singer and a guitar player. She'll probably do music up there at Holy Trinity as well.
I was wondering if you were involved in any ecumenical things.
Yes, ecumenical things. I'm trying to repeat the question slowly. Yes. Well, let me think. Currently, I mean, I would, Sheridan, where I serve now, is kind of an ecumenical congregation, because I would say only 40% of the membership is, grew up Lutheran. So it's just a lot of different people from all over the place, and they've just found Sheridan and want to make it their faith home. And I really love, I love that, just the mixing of different faith backgrounds, and in the midst of that, just finding a unity in Jesus Christ. I think that's just a beautiful thing for a community to experience. In terms of, I guess, more formal, previously, I mean, in campus ministry, we did a lot of ecumenical things. In my first call, that was in Ceresco, Nebraska. There was a Methodist church, an Evangelical Covenant church, and a Lutheran church. And us pastors, we'd get together for text study. We would also do a round robin for like Thanksgiving Eve worship, for Lenten worship, and that was a lot of fun. At Sheridan, we do honoring our neighbor's faith, which is a lot of fun. And so we have a large Yazidi population in Lincoln. Have any of you heard of the Yazidi? Yazidi, they live in like Iraq, and Yazidi is a faith. It's kind of a faith, ethnicity, all kind of wrapped up into one. But they were a group that was really kind of decimated by ISIS, and so that's why a lot of them were trying to get out, and they came to America, and a lot of them, there's just, I think the largest Yazidi population is in Lincoln, Nebraska. And so I was, I just did some snooping around, and I was able to find someone who would like, to speak on behalf of the Yazidi people at Sheridan. And we had confirmation students and their parents and just anyone from the community come. just to kind of hear, what is the Yazidi faith all about? What is Yazidi culture all about? How is it like now that they're trying to, preserve some of their identity, but also kind of find their way living in America here. So, but we've had Jewish rabbis come and talk about the Jewish faith. We've had imams come and talk about Islam in that honoring our neighbor's faith. Have you done any like honoring our neighbor's faith, inviting interfaith kind of leaders to come and I think that that's really enriching because I think there is something about sometimes if all we do is live in Lutheran land, we can very easily kind of just take our faith for granted. But when we hear more about the Jewish faith, we kind of begin to see, okay, that's a little different, but you learn so much more about your own faith in that process. But I just think through just pure curiosity alone, there's just so much joy in learning, about other faith traditions as well.
What do you read? Or do you like to read?
Yes, I like to read. Well, currently I just read a lot of, I read my daily devotional emails. I read Richard Rohr, daily devotional. Do you read that?
Yeah.
Oh, good. At the deacon meeting, I was asked that same question.
Oh.
And I've read Falling Upward, which I love that book about the two halves of life. So I've read a lot of Richard Rohr. I like Brian McLaren. What I've done is at Sheridan is I will read. So for example, in 2017, that was the 500th anniversary of the Reformation. And so over the summer, I read a biography of Martin Luther. And then I created a class about that I then taught in the fall, just about Martin Luther's life. And just to kind of recognize and celebrate, the 500th anniversary. I also read a book. So most recently, I read a book on C.S. Lewis, and then I taught a class on C.S. Lewis. And then Paul. I read N.T. Wright's biography on Paul, and then made a class about that. And
Anything for fun?
What I read for fun is science fiction.
Oh, really?
Yes. So there is a series called The Expanse. It was made into a TV series on Amazon Prime. Anybody watch The Expanse on Amazon Prime? Yes. Are you Gretchen? I am. Okay. But yeah, I got into the books, and the last book just came out last November. I've not read that, but The Expanse imagines our solar system, I don't know, probably 1,000 years in the future, but our solar system has become colonized. And it's the Earthers are fighting the Martians, are fighting the Belters, who've kind of colonized the asteroid belt. So yeah, I'm a nerd.
You play trombone, you can't help it.
Guilty as charged. Yes, I'm a trombone player. And I've been sober for a month now. Lindy.
And I consider myself part of the season group here.
Season.
Well, we have a group
Lutheran adults from one adult.
Ah,
And I'm sure there's some of the folks that did take part. We'd like to see something like that happen again. That it wasn't a Bible study, we didn't have text, we just had fun.
yeah,
And I'd like to see that again.
okay. So your question or your request, and I'll try to say it as slowly as I can. There was a group left, Lutheran adults for faith and fun and fellowship. Lutheran adults for fun and fellowship. Yes, laugh. And that had been going on, and you would like that to go on again. Yeah. I mean, I would say, a similar approach, to if we want to reach out, to folks who, have a particular need. Yeah, I mean, I would love, if you're interested in that, if other people are interested in that, let's work together and let's make it happen. Yeah, you bet. Yeah, next. Glenn.
My parents were depressed.
Okay.
Their families came out primarily because of the depression and the Southern California. My dad was from that Fremont and Lincoln area, and my mom was Tender and Blair.
Ah, okay.
And I was close.
Oh, great.
And we sort of emphasize again that primarily what we're doing is conversation and socializing. And that's primarily what I've seen in the various opportunities. And I'm all for fellowship, but that's not the primary thing that ACT does. So I'm going to break your rule, Bob, and I'm not going to be excited about it.
Good stuff.
It's not a rule.
I have prepared myself for Stump the Pastor.
Yeah, the church is not a religion club. It's not a church religion business. So I want to invite you to do a little theology. I got a little taste of when you mentioned Brian Clare. And because he has an eye for some critique of the social, political, this culture that we live in. And I think that's terribly important. The fact that you're able to think theologically. What's the God's eye view of what's going on in the world? And not just fall into left, right, Democrat, whatever, all that kind of way that the culture tends to do things. Now, you're welcome to take any kind of social, political, whatever context to theologize. But I want to suggest, if you're willing to pick it up, talk a little bit about what we usually call civil religion. Civil religion, so, and particularly in the United States now, is kind of owned by the right-wing evangelicals. They stole our Lutheran word, evangelical, and they're kind of growing it. And I don't really want to let them own it. So pick up on any of that. I like when I went through such processes of the call process, we didn't get to theological questions from folks. So I think that's fair. And I'll point out that our children were not PKs, they were TOs, theological options.
Yes, thank you. Well, I use the same terminology as PK, although my kids are DTO, double theological offspring. Yes. No, thank you for a more theologically and ecclesiologically framed question. Well, I mean, in terms of, well, let me just start. Well, I haven't repeated your question because it was very long. So all of you on Zoom, I hope that you pick up on the question in my response. I am a spiritual director. And that's just something that I've, kind of done on the side. And traditionally that is, it's a one-on-one kind of an experience. But I've also been trying to live in and grow into the idea of pastor as spiritual director, for the congregation, for the community, listening for God within this community, and listening for what God is up to. What the focus and the emphasis that I want to bring coming here to Mountain View is going to be an emphasis on spiritual formation, faith formation, or discipleship. So that kind, I want to be a part of that kind of work. Now, if there is some particular, something happening in the world, I think if anyone here is like just really geared towards something that's happening out there in the world and they feel passionate about that, I want that to be a part of that process of discipleship and discernment and listening for how God is, has given gifts and experiences, and maybe, calling to stretch and grow in that area and serve and, have a voice in the midst of that. But some people might not have that. They might simply want to grow in prayer. They might simply want to grow just in some very personal skills of discernment, where they are listening for God in their own life. We all have big decisions in life, and some of those decisions are of our choosing. Some of those big decisions are not of our choosing. But in either circumstance, I think it's very important as Christians that we lean on the gifts of discernment. We can lean on the gifts that are within this community in those moments, and we can lean on the gifts of Scripture and prayer. When we're in these times of discernment, I want to help teach, and I want to help grow everyone to develop in those ways. So yeah, I mean, when people want to learn karate, they go to the dojo. But I hope we all want to learn to be disciples. We all want to become a little bit more like Christ, little Christ, like what Martin Luther says. And this is our dojo. We learn best when we learn in the context of community. Because in community, that's when we really have to put forgiveness into action. It's not just something we study. We really have to put patience. We really have to put kindness. We really have to put that, what the 8th commandment is. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. And what that commandment means is more than just not telling a lie. It means that we don't assume the worst about each other. It means the place that we start out with, as we're making all these interpretations about each other. People say things and then we interpret what they say, or people don't say people don't say things and we interpret why they're not saying anything. Or people do things and we interpret why they do something, or they don't do something and we interpret why they don't do something. I want us to always err on making a positive and generous interpretation until we have evidence of otherwise. And so all of these kind of skills of discipleship is what I want to teach in this community. So I don't. Did I answer your question? It was a big question.
It's a big question, but I just want to hear some processes. You know, this is, as you said, the church is not a business or a club,
Right.
and the word of God needs to be enacted and have a point.
Yes. Yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, you know, in terms of how I kind of understand myself and you know, thinking about this role as a lead pastor, it's become very common for pastors to kind of see themselves as, you know, the CEO pastor. Right? I don't have that sense. I don't want to be a CEO pastor. I want to be more of a kind of a spiritual director kind of pastor. And in many ways, I guess, I just want to be more of a classical pastor. I mean, I want to lead. I mean, I want us to do the vision work, but I want us to all do it together. And this is what I hope my experience and training as a spiritual director, I'm going to bring forth those resources in working with the council and, you know, I mean, the Alive group. I mean, your community already accomplished this amazing discernment exercise in this Alive document that you created. That was one of the things that I was so impressed by. So I know the DNA is already within this congregation. And so I want to just keep nourishing that and activating that and calling that forth. And in terms of, you know, we are the church. We are the body of Christ. We are the hands, the feet, the voice, and the heartbeat of Christ in this corner of the world. So I do want to figure out what that looks like very specifically. And it is going to look two ways. There is going to be the corporate way that we are the hands and the feet and the heartbeat of Christ in the community around us. And we might very well discern that as a community, we want to be light and good news for single parents. And we're gonna undertake that together corporately. But I also want to have a level to where everyone personally feels like they are discerning what is that special way in my circle of influence and in my own kind of unique corner of the world that I live in. How can I be the hands and the voice and the eyes and the heartbeat of Christ there as well? So yeah, I really want us to have a sense that the church is the people, it's not the building. And so we are being the church all the time because we are the church and we're being ourselves all the time. So I hope, you know, we have that sense that we're also being the church all the time.
Moving from Nebraska to Washington State, you're moving from a state to our state, which the unchurched percentage is very much higher than Nebraska.
Yes.
How do you see being able to draw people in this state to come and worship?
Thank you for your question. The question is, how do I see the differences of church culture in Nebraska and church culture in Washington State, and how do I see, just engaging people, inviting people, welcoming people in a state where the Christian culture or the church culture is so much different. You know, in the course of this week, you know, people have asked me the question, oh, you're coming from such a large congregation and Mountain View is smaller. And so kind of the assumption behind the question is that that's going to be such a big shift. And can I make that big shift? And I responded to that question by saying, that shift feels easy to me. The bigger leap for me is exactly your question. And I enter into this call with a sense of humility about that question, because I don't know. I need to become a student of this brand new culture or lack thereof in this part of the world. And so I need your experiences. I need your knowledge. I need your wisdom. I want to learn from you. I want to learn from your stories. I think probably the best way I'm going to learn about this culture that you're naming is by listening to your stories. Tell me the stories of your next door neighbors. Tell me the stories of maybe your own children or your grandchildren. Tell me the stories of the people that you work with, and what you sense their attitudes about the church are, or their feelings about the church are. And by listening to your stories, I really need to become a student of that for sure.
We have time for one or two more questions. Oh, you're like,
This is kind of off the beaten path, but with your call here and with your wife's call in Mercer, have you given any consideration as to where you're going to meet in the middle, as far as where you're going to live, where you're going to settle, how you're going to handle the distances?
Yes. So the question is, have me and my family figured out and considered where we're going to live? Yes. And so in the middle. That's a tall order. I guess where we're aiming at now is this quadrant from Renton to Kent to Covington to Maple Valley. And so kind of everything in that area there seems like an in-between. Right. Yeah. Yeah. But moving comes with change. A lot of things are going to change. And so, yeah, whatever we have to make work, we're going to make work. Yeah. It's just the reality of being a clergy couple. Yeah.
But you have an area you're working, so that's the important.
Yes. Yeah. And if you're curious about my kids, so my kids are going to finish their school years this year in Lincoln. We've already figured out host homes for them, so they'll just live with host homes. And Annika will graduate from Lincoln East, and they're just family friends of ours. And actually, something else that you might be interested to know, our family has hosted 4 German exchange students and 1 exchange student from Kenya. And so for 5 years, we've had 16-year-olds in our home, and they've gone to Lincoln East. They just become a part of the fabric of our family, and just very, very wonderful, rich experiences. I want my kids to, kind of have an appreciation for, the world, and kind of have a global perspective. But it's kind of expensive to travel the world. And so we kind of thought to ourselves, what if we just bring the world to us? That might be a little easier. And so that's what we did. And so my kids have experienced, that, these teenagers enter into a family that's not their own. but they become family. So I think my kids with that experience are pretty comfortable with the idea that they're just going to experience the hospitality and the generosity of another host home. Yeah.
I think we're going to stop. Because time is almost up.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, for your questions. Thank you for your listening. And take it away, Bob.
I just wanted to say a few things in conclusion, so we finish up at 10:30. I wanted to say, you haven't, obviously Pastor Eric did not preach this morning in worship, either service. His sermons are online, so if you want to hear his sermons, you can simply go to Sheridan Lutheran and you can listen to his sermons and get some background on Pastor Eric from his sermons. If you also want to address any theological questions, additional theological questions, you can send them to the council mailbox or to me personally. I will send them on to Pastor Eric and I will get them back to you so that you have that opportunity. It's just that I didn't want to get into the weeds. I wanted you to get to know Pastor Eric a little bit in terms of person. But the call committee has done a tremendous job of coming to this point. And that was also my assumption too, that many of these interviews have taken place prior. So, but if you have other questions, please feel free to address them to me or to the council and we'll pass them to Eric, okay? All right. As a reminder, just if you haven't heard or if you are not sure, our scheduled congregational call meeting to call Pastor Eric as our lead pastor here at Mountain View will be on January 30th. That's 2 weeks from today, right here in the Life Together Fellowship Hall, and it will start at noon. We hope you will be able to attend in person, but if you cannot, the meeting is also going to be on Zoom like it is today. So you can experience it that way, but we are hopeful that you can be here. And the purpose of the meeting, there's only one purpose, or actually two purposes for this meeting, will be to vote to extend the divine call to Pastor Eric Bostrom as our lead pastor, and secondly, to approve his compensation package. So those two things. Information about the meeting is, and the ballots are being mailed to you this week, and you should receive them in the mail sometime probably towards the middle or end of this week. So look for those. And then if you have any questions on anything that comes to you, simply email our council mailbox or talk to any of the council members, and we'll be happy to answer those for you. So thank you very much for being here this morning. Thank you, Pastor Eric. Thank you for your questions, and the Lord be with you.